Welcome to Pactium Part 9. When in a position of unequal power, the leader must strive to help the follower grow as a fully realized follower, and resist the desire to imprint their own thoughts upon the other even when it hurts. And you can see that again in Ecclesiastes 8:9. A strict hierarchy, or even an armed assailant, can only command your actions. They can partially command your words. They cannot. They do not have authority from God to command your will, to command your thoughts, to command your emotions. Now, the best example of this is a soldier or a person in a paramilitary organization. They can command your actions, and in some cases, the result will be your death. But they cannot read your mind, and they cannot take from you the things that God has truly given you. It is a fully functional, divinely designed mind and heart and will. So that, the freedoms that we experience right now that may be taken away through invasion, through a remodeling of a government to make it a different thing entirely. They may take away freedom of speech. They may take away freedom of action, freedom of gathering, freedom of religious expression. They can't take these invisible divine things from you. Now, generally, I've spoken about two-person agreements. That is, between you and a friend, you and a spouse, you and a coworker, that are often fairly equal. In this situation of a soldier, this is actually a multi-pact of a variety of parties. And some of them are represented in plurals. So the individual, the army, and society all have a pact together. Society wants to feel protected. It will give its taxes to feel protected, and it is obligated to behave respectfully toward those that risk their lives toward us. You don't have to agree with every single thing every president, every war, every military has ever done. But just as we are to honor our kings, who in this case would be our presidents, when our nations go to war, we need to be respectful of our soldiers and what they're willing to do. Just a fact that I mention whenever I get a chance. If you look at all the wars between the American Revolution and World War II, America has decisively won every war it wanted to win, as long as the American people believed in what they were fighting for. I think that led to Americans praying and God granting our prayer. But when we've gone after things that Americans didn't understand and didn't pray for, I could say lost, but we don't really lose or win anymore. We have these protracted things, like a party without an end point. The army itself passes that tax money, so to speak. I mean, we're funded by the government, but it goes to the soldiers and allocates it. So it is responsible to them with those resources. And it's responsible, in addition to that, to train and lead the individual soldier, who has given up some of his rights and gained other ones. That is, they don't have the same freedom of speech, they don't have the same precise legal rights as we do. But they've given, their perception as it's serving is a desirable thing that they have gone after and chosen. You see, here is where, while it does not seem volitional, it's entirely volitional. We haven't had a draft in a long time, and I hope that we never do. But last time we had a draft, it was a national crisis of young people not agreeing with things, and that's a hard issue. We've actually asked people to go against their own God-given will. It creates a difficult subject. But they get, for that reduction of freedom, something else that they, to some extent, could be said to want more, or at least knowingly chose one thing or the other. I can't say what an individual soldier wants. But what they got is they get paid and they get housing. Although our nation could do better at how we care for our military after they leave the military, because I believe that's our social responsibility as part of this overall multi-pactium, while they're in there, they don't worry about where they live. They don't worry about where they eat. They don't worry about how to wash their clothes. And there are people right now that worry about those things on a regular basis. So, while you could be said to be taking away individual freedom or trading it, that soldier generally made that choice and understands what he's getting. There are freedoms they get that we don't have. To further expand on the nation of this multi-agreement, every general is responsible for those under his command. He has, whether or not you and I could see it, a responsibility to those people. And in times of war, some of those will die, but soldiers generally like the ones where soldiers die less under their command, where less of that occurs. Because one of the things a general should want most is the respect of soldiers. Here's the thing. Most civilians can't name any generals. Most soldiers can name generals because they have such immense control and responsibility over their lives. Every army belongs to its society. That is, we through our taxes pay for it. We through our attitudes bless and encourage them. I am very proactive about being on the lookout for members of our armed forces that are in the community, doing recruiting, doing regular social things in society. I've worked at many schools where there was JROTC. These are some of the kindest people, and they have great relationships with kids. I really think so. Nonetheless, I am always proactive, not to toot my own horn, but give an example of how these things are supposed to work. I am the first to approach these people, get their names, get their branch, and thank them for their service because I want to live in a society where somebody can make art and not get shot at. You see what I'm saying? Because some non-artists, and some of them are artists, but let's say most aren't, is willing to put on those fatigues and put a target on their back if they should interface with our enemies. It assists me in the blessed life I want, where I'm moving toward a life where creating things, music and poetry and podcasts and YouTube videos is really the primary thing in my life, and I do a ton of those things right now. That is not necessarily income, but having a military makes that much more possible. That is, you want to talk about a purely communist country where you don't get to choose freedom of industry, you don't get to innovate or invent things. You know, the military protects the society and indirectly the values of that society. So I want those wonderful young American men and women doing their jobs protecting this life. And not just my physical being alive, but the values that suggest an entrepreneur and artist can pursue those things, and it's not considered traitorous, not considered like betrayal of a system to pick your own way and create things you want to create. In that environment, God has still given you freedom of thought, freedom of emotion, freedom of will. And you have a right to exercise those things. No one can take those things from you. Not society, not a general. If I have blessed you, encouraged you, or equipped you in any fashion, please like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, pray more, complain less.